Okay, we're live again. So the fun thing about live videos is, hey, guess what? They're live. So you know that I'm not actually recording this and posting it up later. I'm actually doing this live. Oh, fun, right? So I was expecting someone to make a delivery at my house. Guess what? They made it when I was doing the video. I was like, oh, I'll do it early because I know that they're coming later, but she came early. So darn it, real life, it happens. All the time it happens. So I was talking about dealing with your ex. I did 3 points that I put in part 1 of the video. So if you are watching this video, you are in part 2 of this video. So go back and watch part 1 first if you are starting here. And hopefully if you watch part 1, you have found your way to here, to this video. So that's what we're talking about. So I talked about, just to recap, always stay calm before talking to your ex. Speak the truth in love. You've got to tell them the truth, but say it in a way that will not offend them. No negatives in front of the children or in front of others. Part 2, exactly, right? It's like I need my own mini-series, right? My own TV show, movie, whatever. This is kind of what this is. And all right, last 2 points that I wanted to make though. Don't use your kids as leverage. That is something that will not help you. It will not help your children. It will not help your ex. It will not help the relationship between any of you, all right? So it is very tempting, right? If your ex is not paying child support or didn't pick them up at the appropriate time or whatever happened, to say, fine, you don't get to see them at all this weekend. Or if you don't pay child support, I'm not going to let you do this. Or maybe I'll take them on the holidays because you didn't come pick them up on time whenever I said you were supposed to, right? Don't do that. Don't do that at all. Your children will only resent you. Your ex will resent you. And it will make dealing with both of them so much harder. So it's going to be hard. Sometimes you just got to grit your teeth because there are so many times where I've wanted to. Maybe my ex did something that made me mad, right? And I wanted to kind of say, all right, fine. I don't think you should pick up our son this evening. But that only hurts my son, right? And it's so much harder when you see how much your children, they love your ex and you're so mad at them, but you're mad at the ex rather. But the children are just like, they think that person has hung the moon. It doesn't matter what they do. Your children are gonna love them because that's their parent. So you really, really don't want to use them as leverage. It only ends up hurting the children. And it really doesn't hurt your ex near as much as you think it does. It hurts the children more so. And we really want to put the children first. In any situation where you have an ex and you have kids, you always want to make sure that you're putting those children as the first priority. Do you love them? Yes, of course you love them. So put them first. Put their needs, put their emotions, put their wants first before your own. All right, and the last point that I wanted to make was boundaries. What are they? Because you gotta have them, especially when dealing with your ex, all right? I think I probably should have put this first. It's like one of the most important things. But how do we have boundaries when dealing with our ex? Well, first of all, anytime you're talking to them, whether you're texting, you are calling them, you're having some sort of conversation with your ex, you can limit the conversation to only the relevant topics, especially if it's a new divorce you're going through or a new breakup or anything like that. It can be very, very tempting for your ex to say, well, what happened in our relationship? When we first split up, my ex all the time wanted to talk about what went wrong, where we went wrong, even though I had talked to him a million times before we actually split up. That didn't matter, right? He only wanted to know what went wrong after we split up. But I'm on the telephone and I'm just trying to figure out, are you going to pick up our son this weekend or not? All right, so there were very many times where I had to set the boundaries and I had to say, you know what? I know you have this concern, but we really only need to be talking about our children right now. So I kind of had to limit that. Also, if you don't like the way that they're talking to you, for example, set your boundaries and tell them, you know what? I really don't appreciate it when you talk to me in that tone that you're speaking, when you raise your voice, whatever it is. And then if you just cannot continue the conversation, guess what? Hang up on them. But tell them beforehand, I'm so sorry that you are being this way. I'm going to have to hang up the phone now. Goodbye. Click, hang up the phone. Trust me, if you do that one time, the next time your ex will just be flabbergasted after that. But they start to get the idea after a while that, you know what, they can't treat you a certain way. They cannot talk to you a certain way. They can't do those kinds of things. So that was really important. It was something that I did in my relationship in dealing with my ex, that in the beginning, you know, it was very tempted. One of us wanted to cry or scream or whatever. I really had to put my foot down and say, I'm sorry, I cannot have these types of conversations with you. I will hang up the phone on you if you continue to talk to me in that manner. And I did on a couple of occasions. And guess what? He stopped talking to me that way, right? So after a while, he got the picture, like, hey, she doesn't like this, and she won't talk to me if I continue to yell at her, because I wouldn't allow that. I tried not to yell back at him. It was very tempting, but there were a lot of times where I just had to calmly say, and it took every ounce of energy within me, but I had to say, I'm sorry, I don't accept that. You cannot speak to me that way. So that's boundaries on things like conversations, but what about things like when they come to your house? If they come to your house to pick up your child, if you don't want them inside your house, that is your house. It's your space. You can set that as a boundary. You can come over, you can pick up our child, but you must wait on the doorstep, all right? That is a boundary. If that's what you are comfortable with, then do it, okay? There is nothing wrong with setting that boundary. So whatever it is you feel that is a boundary, there were certain things, I think, in dealing with our son, you know, my ex tried to give him a lot of sugar and then bring him home really late on the Sunday nights, and then he had to go to school the next morning. I had to say, I'm sorry, you cannot do that, or you will not be allowed to have our child over the weekend, overnight anymore. You have to make sure that he's home by a certain time. He needs to calm down before he has school the next morning, right? So there were certain things that I had to put in place and say, I'm sorry, but you have to abide by these rules. There has to be certain boundaries in place. Think about when your parents were raising you. If they let you go free will, you would just, you know, take every ounce that you could get. You would just kind of be a wild child. But when you had certain rules in place, you knew how to act and kind of how to be. So it is a good idea to have those sort of boundaries with your ex. It helps you. You have to protect yourself. You have to protect your child, especially if there's a child involved. So guard your heart. Make sure that you're putting those boundaries in place. All right. So that's kind of all of the speaking points that I had today. So if y'all have any questions, please feel free to questions or comments. Anybody ever had a bad ex out there? Am I the only one? Tell me I'm not the only one. So hi, Samantha. Hi, Wendy. Thanks for joining. I will be having another video this week. I'm going to be talking on Wednesday about the #1 mistake in goal setting. All right. So I know I have different topics that I'll be kind of talking about. Monday's kind of like a coffee talk time, kind of like this. I'll do a lot of topics maybe on motivation or kind of dealing with your ex in general. And then Wednesday, I have a lot of things on, like, you know, goal setting and maybe meal planning and different kind of more, what do you call it? Things that are just very relevant to your everyday life. So we will be talking about goal setting on Wednesday, and what is the #1 mistake that everyone makes when goal setting. All right. So join me on Wednesday. It'll probably be around this time, about 8:30, maybe a little later. And I look forward to seeing you. So thanks, and everyone, and have a great rest of your week. Bye.